Love to give you a definitive answer. And I know that's kind of the whole idea of sports television is definitive answers and back it up. Yeah. And I feel like I usually do a pretty good job of that. But I must admit, every step of this negotiating process has baffled me because each party seems to be doing things for the other side, yet they're embroiled in this 16-month war. The Cowboys, every chance they get, give Dak Prescott flowers, hire a head coach, excited to work with Dak Prescott. He's the face of the franchise. He's going to be here forever, just continuing to up his leverage. And then when Dak finally actually has real leverage, which is we do have a new coach, we are a Super Bowl contender, this is an odder offseason than anyone's ever had. What if I'm not there? 3 weeks before the deadline to sign the tag, he's like, by the way, guys, don't worry about it. I'll be there. Let me sign it. I don't understand. But it's a sign in the right direction. Dak gave up the only real piece of leverage he had for this season, which is, yeah, I'll play for you, but I'm going to miss all the offseason. The moment he signs this, they know, and essentially now they know, he's going to be there the entirety of the offseason. But the reason I think Dak has been so strident in his stance is he knows, he already knew pre-pandemic, he held the hammer of, do you really want to tag me in back-to-back years? And Wildes, this is something you and I were talking about before the show. If they end up having to tag him this year, and he can hold the hammer of next year's $38 million because of what could happen with the cap, that could be devastating for Dallas. He already has the biggest cap hit in football this season, and at $31 million. $38 million, Wildes, I feel like could be untenable for them. So maybe that's why Dak has been able to be like, it's 4 years, it's $35 million a year at a minimum, and I'm not moving off of it because he knows next season $38 million is not doable for him.
Yeah, so if it's not doable because of the gate, the NFL loses the entire gate. We don't know how the season's going to play out, how many fans, if any fans, will be able to be allowed in the stadium. That's a big revenue loss. So if the cap goes down from 200, who knows what it ends up, but that $38 million number doesn't move. That's why I think eventually the deal gets done. July 15th is the deadline. Jay Glazer said, look, it's going to get done one way or another. Dak is going to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys for a long, long time. I think most football fans are sort of like have wrapped their head around that. Like, look, he's the quarterback of the Cowboys. I don't want to have to break out a spreadsheet every time I talk about the NFC East. So, Brian, I think that Dak is sort of locked into Dallas one way or another.
You know, Kevin, I kind of feel like he's locked in, but I think he was forced to be locked in. And I kind of agree with Nick. I'm surprised that Dak signed this so long before the deadline, the July 15th deadline. And here's the reason why. You had up until that point decided just to try to get a long-term deal. But this is what I think Dak is made of. He wants to get in. He wants to work. This is the reason why I believe Dak has signed this deal. He wants to go find out and figure out that new offense. He wants to be with Mike McCarthy. He wants to show you the type of leader that has made him the guy that I think deserves his contract. He's been the face of that franchise. He's been a leader in the locker room. He stepped up and said things when it was tough to say those things. And by the way, he's coming off his best season in his career. So he wants to get with Mike McCarthy. He wants to learn the offense. He knows that he's coming off the best season of his career. But not only that, he's gotten more weapons. He adds CeeDee Lamb. You get another year of Michael Gallup. You have Amari Cooper under contract as well as Zeke. And so now he has the ability to not only have a better season than he had last year, but a better record. So when they go back to the table, and I don't think the deal gets done, the long-term deal gets done before July 15th, but after the season, the Cowboys have to either say they're going to give him $38 million or we're going to give you a long-term deal. And I think at that point, Dak asked for more money coming off this season, a good season, him betting on himself than he did before. So to me, I'm surprised. But now I think that Dak has backed the Cowboys into a relative corner by saying, okay, I'm going to come in, but I also will be expecting to go out there and have a great season. And when I do, I'm going to either want more money or a much bigger part of your cap with that $37 million hit.
It's such a great point, Brian. He's got a great team. He knows it. He's got a new coach. He's got tons of weapons, and he wants to get in there. So, Nick, let's spin it forward a little bit. Now that he's most likely going to be showing up for training camp and play for the season under center, is this a Super Bowl team, this Dallas Cowboys team?
Oh, I think that they can make the case. There's no team in the NFC demonstrably better than them. Listen, I think the two best teams in football are Kansas City and Baltimore, and I believe one of those two is overwhelmingly likely to come out of the AFC. But there is not a clear great team in the NFC, or not a team that is clearly greater than Dallas. I think Dallas's biggest issue last year was coaching, and that Jason Garrett's message, for lack of a better term, had gotten stale. And even though McCarthy had some issues at the end of his run in Green Bay, I think he is obviously a professional, better than average at the very least head coach that on his second time around will fix up some of the things he did wrong in Green Bay. But look around the rest of the conference. Like, who are the best teams? Green Bay, who I would say had a tumultuous offseason, did not get demonstrably better. And you worry all of a sudden about the relationship they have with their best and most important player. New Orleans is the Vegas favorite out of the NFC, but they do have a 40-year-old quarterback that at the end of the season 2 years ago dipped down, at the very end of last season dipped down. There's Seattle. I like Seattle a lot. You wonder if they're going to innovate their offensive scheme enough to really compete for a championship in modern football. And then there's San Francisco. Even if you're not worried about the Super Bowl hangover part of it, I do worry about the overall level of their quarterbacks, certainly now that Emmanuel Sanders is gone and Deebo Samuel is hurt. So I don't think there's a team better positioned than Dallas as far as the preseason favorites. Are they my pick to go to the Super Bowl? Probably not, Wildes. But if you pick them, I don't think it's like, well, how can you do that when they have this glaring weakness? I don't see a glaring weakness on the roster, Wildes.
Yeah, that you reserve that in case anyone picks the Buccaneers. That's Nick breaks out the hammer of the glaring weakness excuse. Look, they're favored to win the NFC East. They're the fourth best odds to win the entire NFC, and they've got the sixth best odds to win the Super Bowl. So, Brian, it's the actual answer is like, yeah, they've got a great chance. The question I have, and the question I have for you, is first-year coach. Do you think that is like, hey, new blood, let's get in here, new momentum, brand new? Does that help or hurt them on their path to the Super Bowl?
Well, I agree with you. I think it's new blood, new momentum, and I think that's the reason why Dak signed the deal so early, so they can get in there and work with Mike McCarthy, who I believe he thinks can better him as a quarterback coming off a career year. But I think this helps that football team. What the Dallas Cowboys have proven over the last couple of years is that they could have the most talent in the NFC. They can have the best players. They can have all these different things. However, the wins in the playoffs have been lacking. At this point, until that happens, then we can't really say that these Dallas Cowboys are a playoff contender or a Super Bowl contender for that matter. They have to find a way to win some of these big-time games. And until I'm proven differently, the NFC East goes through Philadelphia. And until Dallas can do it,
spoken
not
like
paper,
a true
but
former
actually
Eagle,
on
Brian.
the field. Well, of course, I'm speaking from my heart, but my mind is also
Yeah, I know
speaking
you
as well.
are.
Until they can do it on the field, we don't know what the Dallas Cowboys are. They've always had one of the best offensive lines. They've always had one of the better running backs. They've had good receiving core in the past. Now they have to show it on the field. Dak came off a great year personally as far as his numbers, but the team did not win a lot of games, didn't even make it to the playoffs. So it's a different perspective, and I think Mike McCarthy can help this team get over that hump just a bit.
I
Nick,
guess
you think
the
they need to prove
pushback
it in the
would be.
postseason first? Go
Well,
ahead, sorry.
listen, there's not a team. The Eagles are the team in the NFC East that's proven it in the postseason, but their quarterback wasn't there for it. So you feel like both teams kind of need to prove it in the postseason. Last year, Dallas and Philly were the same. Flip a coin to say who you think was better. I know Philly ended up winning the division, but I feel like Dallas had a far better offseason than Philly. They got better at head coach. That doesn't say Mike McCarthy's better than Doug Peterson, but the Cowboys were at a massive deficit against the Eagles, in my opinion, at head coaching spot. That now changed. The Cowboys drafted the wide receiver I'm sure Philly would have loved to have been able to take with their first-round pick. And going into the draft, we said Philly was the team, not Dallas, that desperately needed that wide receiver. And I would say they both suffered an impromptu loss along their offensive line. Travis Frederick's retirement combined with Brandon Brooks' torn Achilles. So to me, those cancel each other out. So I just think Dallas is the better overall team right now within that division. And what both those teams have going for them, Jenna, as far as making the postseason, being Super Bowl contenders, is you have two of, I believe, the worst teams in the entire league in Washington and the Giants that you get a quarter of your schedule against.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.